Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting episode of Shoot and Stiff Wrestling Podcast. And this podcast is available, the video podcast is available on YouTube. Go to Shoot and Stiff Wrestling Podcast on YouTube. You'll be able to find this channel. The video platforms are on YouTube. And audios are available on Anchor.fm, Spotify, Podcast One, Google Music, Amazon Prime Music, and iHeartRadio. And this episode is brought to you by Spotify.com and Anchor.fm. Also, this episode is brought to you by ProWrestlingTees.com. Go to ProWrestlingTees.com/Shoot and Stiff Wrestling Podcast. Tamili Vinish and the Indian Nightmare Vinish for accessories, bandanas, face mask, and all wrestling-related accessories are available on ProWrestlingTees.com. So, I'm your co-host. My name is Vinish. I go by Tamili Vinish. I'm an independent professional wrestler from Atlanta, Georgia, and this is my co-host.
C-Dog from the Woods, what's good? I got another can of Rays in my hand. This time I got Galaxy Burst. It's like Nerds on the Ropes, folks. RepSports.com. Use your Rays 40 for a 15% discount. We also have pre-workout and other supplements as well. And we here once again. We got StreamYard doing this stream. Let's go around. This high quality. This is a high quality video right here. I like this.
It's easy, but bunch of wrestlers trying to figure the technology out here. All right, who's our guest tonight is Mr. Benjamin Wood from Louisiana. Where should I start? To talk about him because there's this. So we got a chance to do podcasts with Lennox Norris. We got a chance to do an amazing podcast last night with the Hustler, Rip Rogers. So it all connected. Everybody that we had a guest on this podcast are connected. I don't want to brag so much. He's been in this business just as longer as Lennox Norris, a former tag partner of Lennox. He worked in OVW. He have his own promotion. I believe he was a booker on a promotion from Louisiana, Elevate. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you, Benjamin Wood.
Thanks. We also have a cat in the shot. He just needs attention.
We welcome the cat as well.
If anyone didn't know, I'm an actual cat guy, so that's out there now.
Me too. I love cats, but my girlfriend, she don't. So,
yeah, not as much as Teddy Hart, right?
Dude, like seriously, right before I got on here, I've been watching it, dude.
I haven't watched it yet, but I'm tempted to.
Like, I'm almost mind blown with the drama. Like, I thought my wrestling career had drama. Like, this guy's got like one up on I think all of us.
Yeah, he went from like pretty much like this close to being like big time or being signed somewhere big to like hit the fan.
Oh, definitely. I think, as you know, in this business, there's a lot of ego and attitude, and his definitely got the best of him at a young age. But what young, good-looking guy with a last name so iconic wouldn't be in that mindset? That's the problem with a lot of that, is guys get like an opportunity quick in their career, and it's just like the NBA or the NFL or anything like that. Like, you take a 19-year-old kid off the street. He played a couple of years at college, made a name for himself, got drafted, shoot him up with $20 million in his pocket. He's never known anything in his life. And now he's got decisions and options and opportunities, and nobody's coaching this guy how to deal with stuff like that, Even with a family like Teddy had, I don't think anyone was giving him the advice he really needed, or he just wasn't capable of understanding what people were saying. Because when you're young and you think you've got it, a lot of guys don't listen to the guys trying to, hey, maybe you don't have it so much.
Yeah.
So, Ben, tell me, brother, where did you start it, and when did you start it, and what made you to start in this business?
I've loved pro wrestling since I was 8 years old. My uncle flipped on, I believe, Saturday night's main event one night, and I was hooked on the spot and wanted to know when that was on again and when I could watch it, and just consumed like my mental thought. Growing up in New York, We had access to like cable and all the channels and stuff. So like you were getting a pretty healthy dose of wrestling as a kid. You had the AWA on at like 4 p.m. on ESPN, followed by World Class Championship. Saturday mornings was Superstars. Sunday mornings was Wrestling Challenge. Saturday nights was TBS World Championship Wrestling. So I mean, then you got the Madison Square Garden pay-per-views once a month. So you were getting fed a pretty steady diet of pro wrestling.
You were an
Coming out of
entitled fan.
Yeah,
coming
yeah. I grew up only being able to watch for the longest WWF, and then when my parents split up, I remember going to visit my dad, and he boiled some hot dogs in a coffee pot somehow. I don't know how that worked, but I distinctly remember hot dogs in a coffee pot. And then WCW came on. It was a Saturday, and Sting was on there, and I got hooked on Sting from the get go, like the face paint, the hair, all that. I was like, man, what is this? He's like, this is WCW. I was like, what? From then on, I was like, man, I have two things I can watch now. My mind was kind of blown.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating to figure it out because it's surely a spectacle, especially back then growing up. I mean, I'm probably a little older than you guys, but I definitely was captivated by the bright lights and just the big characters.
Yeah, that's what draws me, like more or less. If now it's just a lot harder to find. That's why I think a lot of people are kind of drawn towards Bray Wyatt's character because he's just more than just he's got layers to him.
Oh, I think characters are a necessity in this business. A lot of people don't have enough of them, especially like the women are so talented in this business, but like a lot of girls are just girls wrestling. Like the ones that like I loved Abaddon. It's sad that she got hurt again because she was something different. Like someone trying something new in a women's division. I like that kind of stuff. I think it's like innovative and creative. And wrestling, that's like what the characters we grew up on were pretty over the top and eccentric, but it was like they made it believable. And like Bray Wyatt certainly like is someone who makes things believable. And that's the fans just want to connect. That's why
Yeah,
there's a lot of good wrestling right now. There's some crappy wrestling, but there's some good wrestling, and like they're getting an opportunity to just kind of like what they want to like, and choose to follow what they want to follow. And I think it's cool that like opportunity is there right now in wrestling because it's kind of it was like that once. Like you watch the old matches and stuff, and 25,000 people were going ballistic over an arm drag and a hip toss. And now people can get people with just the character, like the music hits or, the lights change and all of a sudden the entire crowd is pretty much captivated.
yeah.
I remember watching Harley Race against Terry Funk in 1983 for the NWA World Title. It was a steel cage match. Those two guys didn't do a lot of flips, a lot of spots. All they did was a couple of arm drags, hip toss, submissions. It was, I believe, 25, 30 minutes of match. And man, that was insane. The crowd was like going nuts, and it was a great story.
Yeah.
So, talking about wrestling, yeah, C-Dub, go ahead. You were about to ask something.
Yeah, I was gonna say when you hit on the crappy wrestling part, what in your book calls it when you're watching wrestling or watching it on TV or whatever, or even that, say if you happen to drop in on a indie show or something, what in your mind is crappy wrestling? Like what have you flipping the channel to watch something else?
Basically when like I'm just not getting a story because if there's not a story, there's not an investment. It's something I learned a long time ago. I was really blessed on my journey to end up in places with the right people at the right times and learn from some of the best minds in the industry, whether or not, you know, I utilized it at the time or not, I definitely understood it. When I watch product today. I realize you have to realize, especially me being an older person and coming from a different generation, like the formula is always going to be the same, but basically the business is forever evolving. And so you have to understand both sides of it, and you have to understand how to incorporate both sides of it because it's very important. So I'm not going to knock everyone for the flips and things like that because that's what someone brings to the table. Just like a circus act, you've got a trapeze artist and you've got the clown, you've got the cannonball shooter, and then you've got the tightrope walker. Everybody plays their part. Everybody's a part of the show. The thing is,
Yeah, so sorry.
oh no, I was just going to say,
Jericho. What
go
happened?
ahead.
Go ahead, Steven. CW, yeah. What you were saying, Jericho?
Well, yeah, Jericho mentioned recently about it being the possibility of bringing it to the Olympics. That people laughed about it, but he broke it down as like figure skating and all these other joint where you have two parties collaborating together to put on a show. Basically, I guess he was saying that it's not too far fetched for them to be able to do that, and then not, and then you got the match that happened at Full Gear between the trios match between Death Triangle versus Omega and the Bucks, and somebody dubbed over the little scene where at the beginning where they were going kick for kick, drop kick for drop kick, and all this stuff, and super kick. Put circus music over it, and it brought me back to he's not too far fetched on it because I could see it being something that would have to take the storyline and win or lose aspect out of it and just have it more or less a choreographed fight scene. But I mean, I don't think it'll ever be in the Olympics, but I could see where he's coming from. But yeah, when you was talking about the circus act, there's a place for everything. It's just making it make sense. And if you can make it make sense, then it's going to make dollars. But after a while, just repeated acts of everybody doing the same thing, and it happens 4 or 5 matches in a show, it's going to get old, and that's why they're not drawing as many viewers or filling as many seats as the other product is, because they're trying to make each match different.
I think both products cater to different audiences. I think some of the WWF fans are traditional, lifelong wrestling fans who grew up watching with their fathers, and it's been passed down. I think the product at AEW is good. I think there's people there that are extremely talented. I think anything that's on television, giving people a platform, is something worthwhile. I've always told my students when I've trained and people in the locker room, what you're doing out here is great, but if you're not cashing a paycheck every week signed by Vincent McMahon or Tony Khan, then you're not doing anything, and that's the honest truth. So I think the matches tend to get repetitive. Because the audience is bought and invested on the people as opposed to maybe what they're watching. WWE crowd is kind of wanting to be overwhelmed and shocked and awed. So they're expecting a surprise or something, some screw over or something to happen. That's what they've been conditioned to for like 40 years. So it's a kind of mixture, Wrestling isn't far from a lot of things. I mean, going back to the Olympics, wrestling, quote unquote, like legit Greco-Roman wrestling, was in the Olympics at one point. Of course, things have changed over the times, but the overall competitiveness, a match should always be competitive. It should always be a match. Otherwise, where do you have it? If you're just in there doing a bunch of stuff that doesn't make sense, then you're not in a competition. And that's essentially what the foundation and the formula is. That's what should always remain the same. Everything else can be tweaked a little bit, but the very foundation is to have that feel.
So how was the wrestling situation when you started? You said you were in New York. So when did you decided that okay, you want to do this, and where did you learn your basics?
I started like 10 years too late. I wanted to start right out of high school, but back then we didn't have the internet. And so like I didn't know where a wrestling school was. And so I kind of, navigated through life for 10 years and I was working a job doing overnights and I was hitting the gym when I got off in the mornings around like 5 a.m. There was this teeny little girl and she was there like every morning busting her ass. And turns out she was the women's welterweight champion at the time. She's like, you've got good size and a look. You should take up boxing. And I'm figuring, shit, I'm not doing nothing with my life. Sure. And I started boxing training actually. And I was doing some amateur fights and things like that. We were training one time in Yonkers and I saw a sign over the counter that said pro wrestling training on Sundays. And on that spot in that moment, I asked the guy what that was, and he said, yeah, every Sunday they practice. And I turned to my trainer and I said, thank you for everything. This isn't for me. And I showed up that Sunday and I started training in this little boxing gym in a boxing ring with this old international dude, the Puerto Rican assassin. And he ran this little school for his son and had about like 15, 20 students. And basically, it was kind of a screw-all thing where we just went in and practiced our moves and what we watched on TV and whatever, and he'd give us some guidance. Either you were picking it up or you weren't. And then after that, I had a couple like independent shows. My first actual ever independent wrestling match was against Special Delivery Jones, and it was for a block benefit thing in Harlem, New York. And there was like 1,000 people there, but it was pretty friggin' awesome. Wow. And I moved to New Jersey after that, to this little town called Toms River, which is known for baseball, but it was also known for NWA, Jersey, and Phoenix Championship Wrestling, which was run by a guy named Donald Bucci, whose brother was Supernova from ECW, WWE, Simon Dean. And so they were like running a promotion, and I became friends with them, and kind of like everything fell into the right place at the right time. Like by 2003, I was already like 3 years in the business and I got a tryout at OVW. I already had a TNA tryout at that point. And then I went to OVW for the tryout. There was like 85 of us there. And it was like a week of pretty like basically being broken to pieces and rebuilt and like seeing if you can catch on and learn like the way they want you to learn it. And it was pretty overwhelming. And it was a hell of a group of talent there. And somehow, some way, after that week, about a month and a half later, I got a call from Jim Cornette, and he invited me to come train with the advanced class down at OVW, which at the time was the mecca of professional wrestling if you could get into it.
That's the real logo, right, on your T-shirt.
The real logo of the original, man. And I'm always proud to wear that, man, because to be able to have been in that building at that time and experience the things I got to experience were memories and things that, like, I'll never forget, and just really a different life that some guys will never fathom, what it's like to be a part of. We take so much for great, so we're so ungrateful for things at times. We take a lot of things for granted, and that experience is something that I will forever cherish.
Yeah,
I remember watching
wish
some
they
of the
would've-
OVW. Go ahead, CW.
I'm sorry. I wish they still had a partnership, like would have kept it to a certain extent with OVW. it kept that, branched off, and had the FCW and later Performance Center. But I wish they would have kept that. And I can only imagine there probably could have been a lot more guys coming out from that from OBW that we'd see on TV if they would have kept that partnership with them.
We didn't even realize. I mean, when I got there in 2003, it was like the who's all of who's all. Like Cena had just gone up, Brock Lesnar had just gone up, and they were just recruiting people left and right. There were a lot of guys still down at the time. Bradshaw and Farouk, Ron Simmons were down helping them out and helping, rehabbing and doing stuff. Mark Henry was there. They were, up and coming. They brought Matt Morgan in, Elijah, Mike Mondo, all those guys are there. And then they had some of the guys from WCW. They had Jim Jack and O'Hare were down there. They had just come over from the merger and were still in developmental. Bobby Lashley had come in. Dolph Ziggler had come in. Like, they were bringing in guys left and right. Like, and these guys are talented, man. We were in practice every day. We practiced on Mondays and Tuesdays. It was from 11 to 4. Then Wednesdays was the TV taping. Thursdays was 11 to 4. And then Fridays we had off. Sometimes we'd have a house show Friday night. We usually had house shows every Saturday and most every other Sunday. So we were like, wrestling was pretty much like 6 days a week. And if you're not able to keep up with that, like, getting and seizing that contract is like really, really hard to do. Like, I had to work a full-time job on top of trying to do all that because I didn't have a contract at the time. So it was like really intense trying to get that.
Yeah, Rip was saying like the other night that there's a lot of guys actually. Santino Morello was one of the guys. He didn't have the money, and his mother used to send him money, and he almost lost his place to live. Then finally, WWE hired him. So there's a lot of struggles, but at the same time, I was going through some of the OVW matches where Chris Benoit was going one-on-one with Eugene. This is before Eugene got a gig with WWE. I think Nick Dismore, yeah. And then I remember Basham Brothers. They had matches with Brock Lesnar and Benoit. Then Kane used to come there. Did you ever got a chance to work with Chris Kanyon when he was in OVW?
No, I did not. Kanyon, if he was there, I don't remember him being there long. Like, there were so many guys that came in and out for a time period. Like, my first day at practice, Randy Orton was rehabbing his shoulder. And so I was taking suplexes from Randy Orton, and then I was taking super clotheslines from Batista, who would like grab your wrist and clothesline you and hold on and pull you back up and clothesline you. And so this is, practice. So I'm taking like 20 of these because I'm the new guy. But at the same time, it's like I'm fucking taking suplexes from Randy Orton and getting punched like how fucking cool is this?
Nice.
Your tag team with Lennox Norris. How did that happen?
So I had left OVW in 2005, basically right before Heyman had taken over. And I was going through a lot of different things in my life. I was in Louisville still at the time, and Kentucky had a really thriving pro wrestling scene. So I started immediately working the independents. And you pass a lot of people around the area. I met a lot of folks that ended up at OVW later on and along the way in a journey. And we've all been in locker rooms with each other somewhere if you worked in Kentucky at that time. Like, everybody that worked the area. We either worked in Indiana or we worked for Bad to the Bone or, USWF or whatever, other promotions were running. There were so many like little bootleg promotions. I wrestled in barns. I wrestled in like little tin buildings. I've wrestled in places that were still like Hattiesburg, which were still very like pro Jim Crow era, like pretty crazy stuff. So like there's a lot of wrestling in that area. But I passed Lennox Lewis a couple times, and I had seen him on OVW TV doing the Native American gimmick. And this is a really crazy story because I grew up my whole life thinking I was Native American. Like it's everything that I've been told. So I have like 3 tattoos that are Native American. Did the gimmick, the Indian Outlaw. I thought it was really cool. I thought it was representing my heritage. I took my DNA test like 3 years ago, and I don't have an ounce of Native American in my blood whatsoever. But that was pretty crazy. But at the time, I was like, nobody's doing this like Native American tag team, and I was like a real fan of like the old Young Bloods. They were kind of like the first, pretty much bloodline, like like Usos. They were really like hot, like flashy brother tag team that were Native American, and it worked. And so I saw Lennox doing, Lennox Lightfoot, and I was like, man, I would like to tag with this guy. Like we could do something. I already had an idea in mind. I was like, we'll call ourselves the War Party, and I got a hold of him, and I worked some things out to come back to OVW, and then we just started traveling the independent scene and worked in lots of different places tagging. And we pretty much won like every championship from here to like Jackson, Mississippi. And it was really an awesome time. We were doing TV for NWA. We were doing TV for SAW, All American All Star Wrestling, and doing OVW TV. So we were like really kind of thriving together. Lennox is a lot of things, but one thing is he's one of the most underrated guys in the locker room as far as talent was concerned. And it's a shame that his talent has never been able to overcome some of the other.
I'm into that. I've got a chance to step in the ring with him a couple of years ago. I worked with him against him as a tag partner. We did a thing in Wisconsin. We called ourselves the Ancestors. Something very similar, but it was interesting. So from that point, you were doing the tag matches. Of course, the ultimate goal is WWE. Did you ever get a chance to do a tryout? Did they call you? Did you get a chance to do extra work, house shows, anything like that at that point?
Did. For one, like when the first run at OVW in 2003 to 5, we did house shows pretty much like I said every weekend. Those weekends would consist of, if you showed up, Jim Cornette would use you. And so you're always wrestling, especially being a new guy and an undercard guy, you're wrestling like the big guys, to get them, some reps.
Yeah.
And so I was working with like Mark Henry and working with Matt Morgan and working with John Heidenreich and working with Nathan Jones, and because I'm 6'4", and so in all reality, these 6'5", 6'6" guys, I look standing next to them. Especially at the time, I was pretty jazzed up on some sustenance, but that's a whole different story. But, like I looked the part, so I had dreads and like, it was fitting. So I always got to work with those guys, but I also got to work with like all the other talent. So it was like, a lot of tag matches. I worked with, like Joey Matthews and, all those guys. And it was really, Carlito and La Resistance was one of the first tag team matches I had when I got there. Like it was pretty awesome. I've worked with I've worked with like a lot of those guys, and it's like it's a different level of what you see when you're in a locker room on an independent show, like all around. It's everything that when you're something, and it's so competitive. I did get to do a SmackDown in 2009, and it was a really great night. And I was up there with JD Michaels, a character he is, and a couple other guys from OVW, plus some other outside guys. And Jamie Noble wasn't around that day, but we did get to work out, and we were down there working out in front of everybody. And like everybody's at, like Undertaker, fucking Jerry Lawler, like Schnitsky, like, you know, like all those guys are like standing at ringside and talking and whatever. Funny thing, just a real quick, before at 36, I was kind of at the dead end of it, and I went to Harley's camp in 2009, I believe.
WLW in Troy,
Yeah,
Missouri.
yeah.
Okay.
6 years old, I went, and I was there, and I met Uncle Bob. Bob Evans was there, and the other guy from the Heartthrobs, I forget his name, was also there trying to get a shot. They had Harley Race there, of course. Ricky Steamboat was a guest who was an agent at the time, and Vader was there.
Isn't that time where they were doing shows with Japan, Noah?
So Pro Wrestling Nova was there,
Yeah.
which was one of the reasons I went, because they were running the Japanese practice. I had hired a personal trainer like 3 weeks prior because I knew this was going to be fucking hell. And so wanted to be able to get through the Japanese workout. Because if you can't get through that, they're not even going to think twice about like taking a look at you. Tommy Mercer was also there, Crimson from TNA.
Yeah, Anthony Mayweather.
Yeah, like we went out and we like stayed together the whole week, and they were like they liked us because we were bigger guys, and so they had their eye on him especially. So it was a cool experience. But I got to wrestle in front of Steamboat, and like I was like the first match that day of the tryout matches, and it wasn't a great match. Like the kid forgot like he looked at me and started crying and was like, I don't remember what we said. And I'm like, that's okay. And I just like did my best with the knowledge I knew to lead him through 5 minutes of just me trying to work big man and whatever, and like giving him the roll up finish at the end, you know, and like we got through it. And like at lunchtime, I went to Ricky and I was like, look, man, SmackDown's coming to Louisville in like 2 weeks. If you liked anything you saw today, like, you know, could you put in a word for me, get me a tryout there? He gave me the nice, nonchalant fuck off, which was, yeah, you know, kid, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And so I kind of, whatever, I was like, well, I appreciate your time, sir, and whatever. And he's like, you know, I'll see what I can, whatever. So I get a call like 2 weeks later, and I'm like out to eat, I think at like David's barbecue or something like that. I don't know, it was good. And it was from the WWE office, and I thought I was getting ribbed. So like I didn't even answer it. And so like I listened to the voice message, and it's like, this is Kristen from Talent Relations in WWE. We'd like to use you to meet down next weekend, blah, 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 call me back. And I'm like, holy fuck. I was like, Ricky Steamboat back and put in a word for me. And when I got to SmackDown that day, he came up to me when I was at ringside on the apron waiting to work out and stuff, and tugged on my pants leg, and he's like, oh, you made it, kid. And I was like, thank you so much, sir. Like, yeah, I'm kidding. And I'll always, like, I've been a Steamboat fan my whole life, but, like, I was super appreciative for that moment because that made me feel like, no matter what was going on, like, or what I haven't accomplished, like, it was a moment of redemption. And that day, like, you got to work out and it was cool, and, you know, you're networking in the back. And I'm, you know, at this point, at that point in my life, I'm like, wrestling's more than just the fantasy and the fun and the journey. It's like a necessity that something has to happen now. And here's my only opportunity maybe ever. You know? And so like I'm networking my ass off there. And I'm dressed nice and I'm in the best shape of my life. I see Vince McMahon coming down the hallway. And people scatter like ants when this man walks. He's extremely intimidating. He's about a foot taller than me. And it's really interesting. And well, not a foot, but like a couple inches. And He comes down the hallway, and for whatever pursued me to do so, I step in front of him and stick my hand out. And I'm like, Mr. McMahon, sorry to bother you. Just wanted to say thank you for this opportunity today. And he grabs my hand, firm and clammy, and like we're looking eye to eye. And I'm looking up at Vince. That's how tall Vince McMahon is. And he's like, Benjamin. And I'm like, yes, sir. And he's like, got a good look, kid. And he's holding on my hand, and he goes to walk away, and he's like, we'll see you around. And I was like, thank you, sir, Bubba. And he walks off, and like, I'm just whatever. The other guys that are there at UW, after they had a heart attack, thinking I just probably got them all kicked out of there, are now looking at me like, dude, what did you do? How did you do that? Like, how did you do that? Like, basically 5 minutes later, I was in the office talking to Laurinaitis and Piranha, and they were basically like giving me a couple more dates to show up to have a couple trials where I actually got to work with Jamie Noble so they could see what I could do. So I it was almost like a second redemption in life. It was a really amazing night. I think a lot of people go up there just thinking, oh, I'm an extra and nothing's going to happen for me. And it's not go up there and stand out for the wrong reasons, but it's like take advantage of that opportunity and stand out for the right reasons and make the right connections. And don't just be a wallflower, be respectable, but take advantage and let people know why you're there.
Just don't stay in catering too long.
That's what I believe, you know. It's like I went to catering and I waited to everybody, and people were like, "No, come and eat." And I sat there and I'm eating next to the guys, and it's like everyone's chill, everyone's watching you while they're there, everybody's seeing how you act and how you pay attention to things. I was at Gorilla the entire outside of Gorilla the entire night with Sheamus and Heath Slater and a couple of the other guys watching, the show on the monitor there, dude, and just networking and just, it was really cool. Undertaker came by and shook my hand. Like a lot of the guys came by and shook my hand. People that were in OVW, like Johnny Morrison and Melina and Beth Phoenix, all came up in the hallway and gave me a hug. That made my stock seem like I felt like a little bit better at the time. Me and you'll know the name Pragmatic, who general manager gimmick. We were supposed to go do those next couple shows together, because he was kind of tailgating me that night, and I was like, "Can he come with me?" Because I'm thinking in my head, a ride would be nice. So I was like, "Let's get this kid booked," and so it worked because me and him weren't really close, but he got booked. They called me. Ali called me from OVW that they were doing the TV title tournament. Since I was a former TV champion, I was like, yeah, sure, I'll come because I was going to work with Paradise. And I love Jimmy, so of course I'd come and put him over. And we were doing a routine spot of me catching him off the fly, and my knee buckled underneath me, and it snapped my patella tendon, like shredded it off the bone.
Ooh.
It's the craziest feeling I ever had in my life because I tried to get up and I physically couldn't, and couldn't shake it off. And it was just like the most excruciating pain ever. And I had to get counted out and went to the hospital. I had surgery like a week later. The surgery didn't necessarily work, and I had to have another surgery. But the hardest thing was like having to call back the WWE office and be like, I can't make those dates. And funny enough, Brad Maddox went on and did those 2 dates and ended up with a contract.
Yeah.
And so you never know, never say never, whatever. But like, I don't blame anybody for anything in my wrestling career. Like, I made a lot of mistakes when I was in OVW the first time. Basically, I had it on a silver platter to be everything you could be, and I didn't take advantage of it. And I always own that. And I try to teach people that, if you want to do this, like there's ways to do this and there's ways not to do this. And like, you don't want heat for the wrong reasons. You don't want to be blacklisted amongst people. All the petty gossip and the rumors and talking about each other will get to nowhere.
Yeah,
We'll put that on.
something I was about to say that I held back and didn't say. If I said it, it probably needs to be taken out. But it has to do with the Brad Maddox thing. Uh, I had to hold back. So I'm pretty sure you probably get where I'm going with it. But I mean, it could have been you in that video.
Shit, it probably would have been, and then I would have been in like even more trouble than I was in. You know, that's the only thing I've ever had
In
in my
Booker
life.
T's voice, tell me I didn't hear that.
Yeah, yeah, don't put probably don't want to put that in there. But that's up to you. You're in charge of editing, Vanish.
He was a good-looking kid, Brad Maddox. I'm not surprised. He had a great physique. You know, he just. I guess they didn't see him as like, basically he's really now probably would have had a bigger opportunity because he's about Chad Gable size.
Yeah,
Um, one thing about even the second time around from about 2007 to 2009 when I blew my knee out, there was a lot of talent still there at OVW, even though it wasn't with TNA yet or it wasn't WWE support. WWE was still watching what they did, and a lot of guys still came through there. They were still producing like a hell of a show, and you were still working with like, some of the best talented guys. I've never been in a locker room in my life other than OVW where you know that everybody around you has the same goal. Everybody is there because they're hungry and they want to be a star. And you will not find that in most any locker room across America. Because these guys, almost all of them, think that the little shit that they're doing is super great already. Or don't respect, like, the work and the audience interaction. Like, guys that could work. Like, we didn't call a lot of shit out there. We didn't go A to Z. When I wrestled in Tennessee and places like that, and you ended up working with some of these old vets and stuff, like, it was basically just shut up and listen, kid. And if you listened and you sold and you did a good job, you kept coming back, and they kept using you. And so, like, who doesn't want that opportunity? And that was the benefit of that time was that Midwest area was like so influential with a lot of the veterans still around, like the Dundees and the Tommy Wildfire Riches,
they
and
you was talking about Jamie Noble earlier. I saw recently that they're gonna give him he's gonna be wrestling and get his a legit last match, I guess, under WWE's banner.
In West
I
Virginia.
don't know if it's a house show or what or something, but I know I just saw recently he's going to be wrestling soon.
yeah, I think that's cool. He's been around the business a long time. He's done a lot for WWE. Probably the longest ranking producer on that roster, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like the guy is very humble and nice. Like when I went there, I got a chance to meet him, and I introduced myself, and I said, "Nice meeting you, sir. My name is Vanish." And I was like, "Hey, man, where are you from?" And he took some time. He was so busy all the time, but he took some time and talked to me for like 5 minutes or something. And man, again, it's like when I got an opportunity to do extra work, I've done a lot this past year. Anyone that I came across with, including Vince McMahon, and I got a chance to meet him too in Greensboro, North Carolina Coliseum. And like you said, I pretty much had a similar experience too. Everybody, every single person from that company were super nice. I couldn't even say a bad thing or bad word about anyone. It was a great experience. So, you had your injuries, and I believe how long you were there till you moved to Louisiana? You were still part of OVW
Um,
for a long time.
my last match in OVW was in 2010. I worked. I'm pretty sure it was Mike Mondo, and
Oh,
I was having another surgery, and I was in the mind frame where I kind of knew wrestling was done. Like my knee, I wasn't moving the same. Like I wasn't going to be the same. Um, some people come back easily from this injury. My knee is still totally like I have no kneecap, so like so everything I do, I kind of push myself through. Um, I've done, and, like I just wanted to go out on my own terms, not having the injury be the last thing that they saw of me. So I got that opportunity. And funny enough, like Cornette, that tonight he came back there and he sees me. He's like, "Hey, my boy," and I'm like, "Hey, Mr. Cornette," and he's like, "What's up?" And I was like, "It's like I didn't know you were going to be here. We wouldn't have had you lose like that and whatever." And I'm like, "No, I'm like not going to be around because like I'm having surgery, whatever." And it was kind of like a more salt on the wound than it was a special moment. But it was like at the time it was hard to be around wrestling for a little bit. So like in 2010, I was pretty convinced that my career was done, and I was going to give the acting world a good old try, just like every other former pro wrestler tries. And so, um, I've had a lot of good experiences with that too. I've had some memorable moments. I've worked with Schwarzenegger and Stallone in the Escape Plan, and that was probably one of the most awesome experiences of my life. Arnold sitting across from me and Stallone sitting next to me for like 2 days straight, doing the mess hall scenes and just being able to interact with them like a normal human being, and just a lot of other cool music videos for the Fallout Boys and stuff. I worked with Kimbo Slice in a music video once. Like he was
I remember that.
the nicest guy in the world. Like I ended up leaving there after the video shoot with like sore ribs and a black eye, but it was worth like every second of being there. Um, and just like it was really cool. Wrestling always, man, it's like any other crazy addiction that someone can have. It's always calling your name. And so, like, no matter, I moved to New Jersey and to Kentucky for a little bit to be around family, and I wanted to give the New York acting scene a try as well. And so I was back there, and an old friend of mine was working with Funkified Wrestling, and I was like, oh man, I don't know, like whenever. Yeah, I'm gonna try it. So I did a few matches. I was really in bad shape, and I did like 4 matches. I had changed my name completely because I didn't want anybody to know how bad I was now, and so I didn't want to do this. But like that kind of drew me back in. Then I moved to Louisiana in 2014 to pursue the acting down here, thinking I had a better opportunity, and I ran into the Luke Hawks on a few movie sets, and he was running, Wildcat, and he offered me a chance to come do commentary and some show hosting, and I ended up doing some training there for a while. Unfortunately, him and I didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things, and so like that kind of faded away the opportunity, and I decided it was best for me to move on. And at the time, an ex-student had been running the Elevate program out here, and offered me to come in as kind of like a booker, trainer slash whatever. And like I thought, this is something really cool, the other side of wrestling, not the performance side. And so I was like, wow, I would love to do that. And so I started with that, and for a good 4 years, man, Elevate was running some of the best shows in Louisiana. Like Wildcat's been around for 10 years, and they're an unstoppable force down here without a doubt. I mean, there's no competition when it comes to what they're capable of producing. But we held our own. We never drew less than 350 people on a show, and we always gave them a good mix of guys from outside. But we always focused on building the core around our guys, and it was an awesome experience, the promoting. The downside to it is that you take all the bumps and bruises as a promoter. There's no super glory at the end of the day other than we drew 350 people and it was a successful show. Then it's got to still clean this place up. Half the guys have gotten their paycheck and left already. And I got to start promoting the next show and all this stuff. somebody doesn't like their spot, it's your fault. If somebody didn't win the belt, it's your fault. You took the belt off of somebody, you're a piece of shit. Like it's you can't please everybody being a promoter, and it's like as wonderful as it is to have a vision and an idea and to be a creative, passionate person and see the talent manifest that into reality is fucking awesome. Every single thing else around that moment is utter hell. And so I suggest if you're going to get in the promoting business, anyone, you really think it through, because it's not, I just place an ad on Facebook and 1,000 people show up. That's not how it works. You know, it's really hard and it's really stressful, but the rewards in it are just the talent, the guys. Like I love the guys that trained with us. Dale Springs, super talented. Antonio Bronson's super talented. You know, Andrew Mendoza, super talented. Corey Constantine, super talented. You know, Amaris Blair, you know, struggled hard at first and now she's killing it, winning titles everywhere. Cody King, like a lot of those guys that worked with us and around us and came out from us are really out there hustling hard. And that's for me at this point has been one of the lasting rewards. Maybe I never became a household name in the business, but I've been able to take the knowledge from guys like Rip and Jimmy and Danny Davis. And I trained with Pat Tanaka for a while, and all these legends that I've come across and people have given me the time of day. Like I tried to pass that on to other people, and that's a reward, a full cycle for me at this point in pro wrestling.
What kind of as far as Elevate Pro goes, what style wrestling do y'all run? Is it just a multi style, or is it you similar to anything out there?
Like I said, I grew up old school, so my mentality definitely is, you know, from an old school mentality, but I understand the evolution of the business. And so we did a little bit of everything. Every match made sense, but every match was different. Every match had a different finish. Every match had a different story, a story that was leading to something different. Even if you didn't see it right, you know, there were long-lasting storylines that lasted a year. With some of the people, there were love relationship angles. There were. I followed the model of what I came from. I worked for NWA TV. I worked for Saw TV. I worked for OVW TV. So I've seen TV production, and I've been in movies. I've been on tons of film sets. So that's kind of my, I guess to say like, my motto for everything is like, you know,
No wonder why you guys had like a great production. I watched. I mean, I remember I used to send you my highlight videos and all, and I was watching your shows on Fight TV, I believe, on a weekly basis. The production values is great, like the commentary
and like we didn't have a lot of money, but the guys we had were invested, and the guys we brought, you know, Serpentico wrestled for us. He was our champion for over a year. We had Fuego del Sol, and we had like Camille, and we had like Chico Adams, and all these guys that are out there like doing awesome things, like all worked for us and all had great experiences. Gangrel came in. He was super humble. Like, you know, we had the Rock and Roll Express work for us. Like, unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to book you, you know. I'm so sorry. But when you're a promoter, dude, like your inbox and like your emails are like on overflow. When you're not doing anything, people don't like know you exist anymore. But I never wanted to turn anybody away because I always wanted to have new faces coming in. I like the idea of giving the audience, like you were saying, Chris, a little bit of everything. Like they should get to see a new guy. They should get to, you know, understand the characters, and you want to build your talent up so that's one thing I was always proud of is we didn't have super high priced guys on the roster all the time, and towards the end we were still putting 450 in an arena with just our local talent, guys from the school, guys that were local, and I was super proud of that because the fans had invested themselves in those guys. And that to me, showed that not only was what I was doing working, but that these guys were growing and maturing and perfecting their crafts. And that's really what's most important is, because once I'm gone and I'm out of it, you've got to do that on your own. And so I wanted, our production was based off of giving everyone involved in it a platform to really show their talent and be a part of something different. And I tried to shoot my TV like that, to just be a little funny, a little serious, but something that everybody could watch and get and want to stay tuned to.
You're saying was a lot and stuff. So Elevate Pro's not around anymore.
We haven't ran in a couple of years. We got hit pretty hard by the pandemic and situations with the owner and stuff. Like they had moved. Unfortunately, just haven't been able to run shows. It was kind of a devastating blow, but at the same time, life is changing and everybody's kind of moved on and is doing their own thing, but everybody is doing their own thing. And that's really what's awesome. It's like all those guys that were a part of something are still out there doing something. And that makes me like super happy, because like I'm not everybody's favorite person. I've had heat in the business. I've made a lot of decisions at times that I wish I could take back. I didn't always do the smartest things in the right times. I didn't play the game as well as I could have played it. And, I take full responsibility for that. I've still done and experienced things that are pretty incredible that like a lot of people may never get a chance to. But I want every single one of those guys, even guys like you, brother, to, get that chance to, it's so cool to be in a place where you can really your dream at a different. You're almost there, and it's like I want everybody to be able to experience and feel that.
You got anything cooking up? Any plans of doing something here soon, or anything came across your desk? New opportunities in the wrestling business, or even more acting?
There's a really great promotion in Mississippi that I've been working with this past year called SWA, and they're a really good promotion, and they wrestle throughout Mississippi. So it's given me a chance to kind of get back in the ring again, and I got to work this past year with Antonio Bronson, a former student, and really kind of help him elevate his game. And I work with a couple of the guys that they had that were kind of green and upcoming, and kind of be able to work and teach at the same time, and like show them something different. And like that was really fun. It's a really great promotion, really old school wrestling style, and they're under new management now, so some things will be switching around. But I definitely hope to be working with them a little bit more closely now in the near future. I'm at the point where I'm not trying to prove anything anymore. I'm not getting signed by anybody. Like my dream job would be a commentary job somewhere, or at least a producer job, but I don't ever foresee that happening, unfortunately. But I still always want to have something to do with wrestling because I've always loved it. And I think it brings so much joy to so many people. And it's such a crazy business to be a part of. I don't know if, honestly, like, you can never walk away. Guys are like, oh, I quit, or, oh, I can't take it no more. But, like, I don't know. It's out of every relationship or anything I've ever been a part of, there has never been a relationship like the one I've had with professional wrestling.
That's very true because even I really had like a bad experience with AEW. I'll say it, I don't give a fuck. QT Marshall and I'm a factory and all this shit happened, and it was kind of like I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I just want to quit, walk away. But man, I had more than like 10 fucking concussions and had similar kind of like experience like you do. Some people, some guys that I work with in the ring, they shoot at me. I got injured a couple of times, but I don't know what it is. It's the passion, the love. I enjoy being in the ring. I enjoy participating. I enjoy being involved with professional wrestling. Even when I decided to like do this with C Dub, I wanted to do something different than going online and talk about WWE, AEW, TNA, whatever. Everybody do the same thing. Everybody like there are 10,000 guys in the world. They're doing all these kind of things, but I wanted to bring talents in that people really didn't got a chance to heard about. Like now internet is popular. Now Elevate, it's on Fight TV. Anyone from Uganda can go and watch it. So we have that platform right now. So speaking about wrestling, all these years, man, is there any moment that you feel like I wish I didn't I didn't done that. Like I wish I could have things anything that comes to your head, like any moment that you felt like
Oh,
I
well, there are several, man. I was cocky, dude. I thought my shit didn't stink. I was 6'4". I had dreadlocks down to my nipples. I'll say it. I was jacked, and I felt. I grew up an absolute nobody. I was picked on, abused mentally, physically, like every possible thing you could be in a dysfunctional environment was going on in my environment as a kid growing up. And wrestling, like I blossomed into this kind of like just like that story. It's like the ugly duckling. Like I became a beautiful goose. Like it was like it I felt confident for once in my life, and I didn't know how to handle all of that. And I was getting opportunities at an early point, like that I shouldn't have had, like going to Phoenix Championship Wrestling and working with Nova and his brother. And like at the time, like everybody was wrestling there, like the SAT, Joey Matthews, Mickey James was working there, like just a lot of like good, talented young guys that were going to go on and become stars. Like New Jersey was popping with wrestling, and like I was WWE had come up. We did the Haas Memorial Cup when Russ Haas died, and so it was all of the Phoenix guys versus the WWE OVW at the time. Like it was me and my partner Tiger Khan. Prince Nana, funny enough, was our manager at the time, and it was us like versus Nick Dinsmore and Lance Cade. And then like we won that match. We actually went over on Dinsmore and Cade because we were the tag team champions. And then we wrestled Charlie and Umaga.
Oh,
And
wow.
I got
damn.
a busted nose and was like bleeding all over the place. And Charlie Haas screaming at me for bleeding. But that's a whole different story. But like the opportunities were like there were a lot of like I was wrestling guys and people that like most guys didn't get to wrestle when they first got into the business. And then we got a call to go down to TNA, and we worked a dark match, and like it didn't go great and whatever, and like but then like I had the WWE tryout, and like I couldn't imagine that I was going to get to go there and do that at the time. And I remember people being like, "How the fuck is he going there?" Like I'm thinking the same thing, but it was very overwhelming. It was like you're in there with all these guys, everybody's so hungry and so trying to get their spot. It was very challenging. You did the best you could, and it wore you down physically. But it was. I wish that I wish I had a better support unit around me. I wish I didn't do. I wish I didn't chase the wrong things. I got in a lot of trouble for chasing women, and like I thought I was a star, and that like women were paying attention to me for the first time in my life, and that got me into trouble with the boys and shit. Like that kind of projected my career in a different direction, and I think if I had not done some of those stupid things, maybe the story would have ended up a little different because it wasn't a talent issue. I was good enough, otherwise I still wouldn't have been there. I just wasn't. My head wasn't in the game, and I regret that the most. Um, I look back and think, man, if I could go back and just not do that stupid shit, I might have been a guy that people would have known a little bit better.
Yeah. Speaking of, well, I wouldn't call it stupid shit because I always enjoyed the good ribbon stories. You got any good ribbon stories from your OBW days, or any good road stories?
I have a lot of good road stories. One of the best ribbing stories was one of the first weekends there. Me and Tank Toland had rode up to a house show with Matt Morgan, and we got to a restaurant after, and Bradshaw and Ron Simmons were on the show too. And we did the show. I worked Matt, and because I was doing a program with him, and it was okay. Whatever. We went out to eat after, and like I went to sit at someone else's table, and for some fucking reason, I've got heat with Matt Morgan because of that. And so he's like, "Nah, you're not riding back with me." And I'm like, "What?" And then Tank was pissed, and then like, so we had no ride back. So some of the last to leave is Bradshaw and Simmons. So they're like, "Yeah, but we got room for you, but there's no room in the cab." Mind you, they've got a 4-seater cab and no luggage in there, but there was no room for us. So we had to sit in the back of the cab, and it was like 40 degrees outside, and it was an hour ride back to Louisville. About 15 minutes into the ride, the ring truck pulls up next side to us, and out come water jugs flying through the air on top of both me and Hank Toland. And now we are soaking wet. The wind is whipping. It's 40 degrees outside. And that is the rest of our ride back to the fucking arena. And like, you just got to eat that shit. And Simmons and Bradshaw are laughing. And you just got to be a good sport about it. Even though I wanted to like kill somebody, it was guys did stuff like that all the time.
Yeah, Ron Simmons is from where I live at Warner Robins, Georgia. So yeah, that's wild.
Ron was one of the nicest guys I've ever met. Like, just so down to earth and humble. What a really good human being.
Rene Dupree was talking to me. He was telling me about his experience with Bubba Ray Dudley, Bradshaw, Hardcore Holly. Did you had anything like that, like a bad shoot and stiffen the ring? Somebody tried to,
I actually wrestled Hardcore Holly, and I had to wrestle him because I had heat. And to be honest with you, he didn't rough me up at all. He hit me once, and I hit him back, and he was chill with me after that. And we just hit each other.
He was testing you.
So he didn't lean in. He didn't do a Matt Capitella whatever. And the guys were expecting him to, because as I was walking the ring, they were humming the death fucking chant, like the whole like trombone fucking song. And I was like, I thought I was going to get broken, but Mordecai, Kevin, didn't like me very much, and I remember one time at practice, he stuck his forearm right up underneath my face and started pushing me back to the rope like that. And I shrugged his hand off and like, don't fucking do that again. And like, he fucking did it again. So I grabbed him by his hair and pulled him down on the ground in front of everybody. And like, jumped in the fucking ring and screamed at me and pretty much told me to get the fuck out. Get the fuck out. And it was I love Rip, and yeah, so that wasn't a good moment because then I had heat with everybody after that.
No wonder why White Undertaker never made it anywhere.
I don't know, dude. He was a talented dude, but he was one of the fucking guys like calling the office and bitching about like other guys, like trying to get them in trouble. So like I was never a fan, and I'm really disappointed at like the way I tried to bring him in once for a show for Elevate to kind of bury the hatchet, and he no-showed us. So
wow.
like, it was pretty shitty.
Some people, man, like I got a chance to meet him in Indianapolis in one of the shows. He looked horrible. He had a mustache and kind of out of shape, big belly, and he didn't really care. He didn't want to be there. He just wanted to get that pay and then go home. That was his attitude. C-Dub.
Yeah, man.
What a story, man! What a story! I just gotta say that too. What a story! you have here?
Mordecai, is that Raven?
No, Kevin Throne.
Oh,
That was his
Thorn.
name, right?
Thorn.
Yeah, something like
The
that.
one that
Yeah,
ended up getting the vampire gimmick for when the ECW came.
yeah. Same dude, same
Yeah,
dude.
uh,
You're not missing
yeah,
anything.
yeah. They didn't last long. That man, he was to me he was horrible in the ring, but I mean he wasn't as uh for a while there. It took me a little bit to get used to Baron Corbin. So for somebody to be worse than Baron Corbin, um, I mean, I like Baron Corbin does good. He does a good big guy wrestling or whatever, but he doesn't. He's almost got as many moves as Kevin Nash, but I like Kevin Nash though.
Just have a few more questions, and don't worry, we'll wind up. It's almost like an hour. All these years being in this business, I'm sure you share a lot of great moments. Did you got a chance to meet your heroes? I never even got a chance to ask you. I totally forgot to ask you. Who was your hero? Like when you grew up, that one or two constant people that you always wanted to meet and learn from.
I always like the bad guys, believe it or not. Like I love Hulkamania, but like I also wanted Hogan to get the best. I used to love guys like Kamala and stuff like that. Watching the other brands like Bruiser Brody was a big, influence on me.
Ooh.
I just like that kind of crazy wild man thing. Um, Flair was probably one of my favorite workers, just because like Flair was entertaining and like he
It's
was a
total
showman.
package, man.
I just always enjoyed watching his matches and like, but I met a lot of the guys through OVW, and I met a lot of the guys. We used to do a Legends show every year in Kentucky, and they would bring in a bunch of the legends. And you see a guy later on in life come in like Greg the Hammer and like Jim the Anvil, and like they're all disheveled, and Jake when he was not doing well, and
Yeah.
like it kind of kills that momentum for you. Like it's like that childhood, not the momentum, but that childhood moments, those memories, because you're seeing these guys now. It's like, sometimes like they're drunk or drugged or like showed up without their gear. Like it's just sad to see that version when you watch the other version for so long. I had the opportunity to wrestle Tatanka in one of my last matches, and it was like Indian versus Indian thing, and it was really
Yeah.
he was a super nice guy. We worked for 25 minutes, and it was
Wow.
fucking awesome. And like those guys were like cool to meet and experience, like, have conversations with them and stuff. Steamboat probably for sure is up there on the top notch to have been able to meet him and shake his hand. But to get encouraging words from guys like Bill Dundee and, for Rip, who have always had support for me, even though I was a stupid fuck, as he'd say. He told me to get the fuck out plenty of times. He once actually came to ringside during a live event to yell at me in front of everybody because I did something that I shouldn't have done. And he was like, "You're going to get back in the fucking ring right now." And I'm like, "Wow." So it was,
Rip
but
was being Rip.
I think all the memories are really cool, man. To dream of something as a kid and to get to live that fantasy out. I remember friends later in life when Facebook got popular. I was popular with people in school who wouldn't piss on me if I was on fire. And they would all be like, "Oh, we remember you used to talk about being a pro wrestler. That's so cool." Like at whatever level that is, like it is cool because it's something I did used to talk about, and I actually follow through with it. And like it's just wrestling, like I said, man. Like you guys are lucky to be fans of it and a part of it. Like I think we're all lucky to have it in our lives. It's just as weird and as unexplainable and chaotic as it is. It's so magic and so comforting at the same time.
Rip said it best. He said, "Professional wrestling is a sport where grown ass men and grown ass women act like kids, children over a fake fight and bitching and moaning. He's a lot of drama. He said the best. Um, you watch the products, right? Like, or do you follow up with what's happening in WWE, AEW, any
Oh yeah,
major?
I watch religiously every week. I like all of it. I mean, like I don't pick a side. Like I'm probably yes a WWE fan pretty much because I grew up as from an 8-year-old watching it. But like I love WCW.
Oh, same
I
here,
want
yeah.
it's awesome. I learned so much from NWA, WCW, World Class Championship, right? AWA, like they were all great. I think AEW is awesome. It's crazy how judgmental wrestling fans are, and how just social media has pretty much like changed the every like direction of this business. Um, but it's a good thing and a bad thing in a way. Like their product is obviously good enough to be on television, and the television's very happy with their product, and I think it's going to continue to do great. Um, I think their fan base will eventually kind of drop off if they don't change the direction of the storyline booking.
Yeah, there's on they that booking.
As Tony Khan said in every match, I 1000% agree with that. But like, you have to give people that up and down roller coaster ride to really have them, and the emotional stuff was really working. Cody Rhodes didn't get a fucking hand clap when he came out when he was Stardust, but he comes back as Cody Rhodes, it's new, polished, whatever, and all of a sudden he's the love of the land. That's magic. Stone
Yeah.
Cold, the glass, that's magic. Bray Wyatt, the fucking Firefly, like that's shit that you can't teach somebody.
Yeah, the
And
the new thing with Seth Rollins, everybody's singing with him and stuff.
they're the ones who make you. The fans decide who you're going to be.
And if
Remember
you produce the right show, would come up with
right when Triple H was going to work Fandango, and Fandango was just a meat jobber they brought up, and then all of a sudden that night, the whole crowd started doing the Fandango dance, and he
Yeah.
was a fucking super over.
I still
Like
can't believe he went over on Jericho at WrestleMania.
Mania.
That's still kind of wild.
it's just, but the crowd dictates that, man. They're the ones who decide whether you're going to be the guy or not the guy, and they like who they like. We're not in an era anymore where you can shove somebody down their throat and they buy it.
Yeah,
They kind of stopped that in late '90s when they got tired of Hogan shit,
yeah.
and that's basically when the pendulum swung as
Yeah,
Gorilla
the last
Monsoon.
they did it with Cena for a while, and then it just got to where we really didn't care anymore. We still liked Cena, or we didn't like Cena, and then they started to try to do it with Roman, and then they finally after he came back, it's crazy how he went out with the leukemia and everybody was loving and caring for him, and he comes back, and then not too much longer after that goes Hill, and everybody's loving it. And he's been knocking it out the park ever since.
It's been beautiful, and that's great to see, and that's great for wrestling because you need that guy. You need that top star to keep the overall majority of the fan base invested. And that's one problem I do see with AEW is that they have a lot of talented guys, but they don't have a guy right now other really than MJF that I'm interested in tuning in every week on.
Yeah.
And the booking is bad. I mean, Rip said it best. Like, he said, a guy who never took a bump in his fucking life. He's running a wrestling show. He's great running all this business, football, soccer, whatever. He's good at it. But he's in the wrong business. He's doing wrong things, booking wrong stuffs.
I think it's a wrestling company is not easy to run. Like I said, they've got so many people on their talent roster that are super talented. You only have so much time. Al Snow taught me the most about television, and that 6 minutes is expensive. 6 minutes of TV time is like an exuberant amount of money per minute, let's say. And so your time on TV is basically a commercial spot for the product, and it's also a commercial spot for yourself. And if you're not out there pretty much properly advertising for those 6 minutes, then you don't deserve to be out there. And so I think there's so many spots and so limited time that it's hard to build the stories and the characters with those guys that they have. I think that's their biggest problem. I don't think it even has anything to do with Tony Khan. I think he's in over his head with everything he's trying to do at once. And he probably isn't good at listening to other people because most promoters aren't. At the end of the day, like as many suggestions as you get, it is kind of still your decision. But I think I think they're going to be around for the long haul, and I think that's a good thing for the wrestling business. I think WWE is doing amazing now with Triple H. The stories have been a lot better, reinvested. The Bloodline is magic with Sami Zayn. Like it's just really good television. It's enjoyable television. The matches are better. Guys are getting pushes. You know, and
what do you think about NWA?
not a
Since
lot
you
of
work,
the NWA is kind of fell off a little bit. Impact is kind of just hanging around the corner, you know. So it's.
I still can't believe they're still there.
I think NWA. I think AEW is important for the business, and I'm glad that they're around. No matter whether I love everything they're doing or not, they're at least they forced the WWE and the other companies to at least try harder, and that's what makes wrestling great. That's why wrestling was great during the mid '90s. That's why it was great for a long time until it got stale in the early '90s when we were seeing the gobbledygooker and you know things like that. So,
C-Dub.
Man, you have great content for this episode. Amazing stories. It's good to meet you. I wish Elevate. If Elevate was Pro still around, one of my questions would have been, if Louisiana had the state license thing, and if not, how would people reach out to you about possibly getting booked or whatever, you know? But man,
it's all good, my man. I've come to terms with it, and I'm really thankful for the time that I had with it. It was an awesome experience.
yeah. When you
Like
was
I said,
talking
like
earlier
before,
about,
it was a great TV production. Like it kind of reminded me of old school ECW.
man,
Done it without,
it's on Fight TV still.
Yes.
and Doc Gracie, Jay Norris, man, he was our producer, film production guy, and he made our shit look good, man, and put in a lot of hard work to put an episode out every week, dude. And overall, we produced 54 episodes, man. So I'm proud to have that on my resume. I was told I was never going to amount to nothing as a kid. So, I mean, I feel like, you know, a couple of the things that have happened along the way has turned out all right.
Yeah.
From me, the last question is, what is your advice, or what is your opinion to the guys and girls wanting to be a professional wrestlers? Is it a good time to be a professional wrestler?
Oh, great time to be a pro wrestler. The most important thing in the world is that a million people are going to give you different amounts of advice. And I think it's always good to store a little bit of a piece of each of that away, so that you can remember it, at least be able to relate it to something that you encounter at some point. But the most important thing, really, in this business, honestly, 100%, is if you really want to make it in this business, then the only focus you can have is professional wrestling. Everything else in life has to be worked around that. You don't work wrestling around your job. You don't work wrestling around a relationship. You don't work wrestling around your social life. Everything else has to work around your wrestling life. Because if you don't put 110% into it, you're not going to get 20% out of it. And you need everything. It's so competitive. There's so much more to it. It takes years to fully develop the craft to a point where you're starting to see something out of it, you know. And for some of us, it happens really late. For some of us, it never happens. But if you don't have the time and the energy and the effort, then you have nothing. And so, if you want to pursue this dream, then you have to really think about and prioritize how you're going to make it work, because there's enough distractions in wrestling. There's enough going around for everybody to get an opportunity right now with what's going on, but it's really easy to lose that opportunity. And I tell people I screwed up being a WWE superstar, and I hate for anyone to have that door open for them that one time, and that they're not able to take advantage and walk through it, because you won't get a ton of them, you know. But I believe in this business that if you have something to offer, you understand how to play this game right, you keep out of the bullshit, you keep your nose clean, you show up, you serve, you're resourceful, and you help people, and you have a good attitude, then people are going to want you around, and that's going to help you succeed. But it takes all of that. It takes everything that you have to become a professional wrestler. I've seen it from almost every angle, from the highest level at OVW to the crappiest promotion of your little weekend warriors, you know, just telling people they're pro wrestlers. There's one or two that really wants it. You can see, you know, when you see those people, and it's like, to make it, sacrifice is the key word. So if you're not willing to sacrifice, don't get in the pro wrestling business. You do?
See it up.
Yeah, man. That's great words of wisdom right there for anybody who's trying to get into it. Um, it's either all or nothing. I've been training. I know I don't waited too late. More than likely, cause I'm 37. But I've been bit by the bug, so I'm trying to find something anyway. Whether it be on the table, behind the mic, or like something like this, what I'm doing here, to be a part of it, because I love it just as much as y'all two do.
Well, thank you so much, Ben. I greatly appreciate it, brother, for taking this time and doing this. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you so much. And what a great story, man.
I'll see you
Appreciate
soon.
you.